Okay, I want to thank all of you for coming today. We announced on Monday that we were going to be doing the Thoughtful Thursdays, and this is our first episode. And we are so excited to have Robert Arthur on with us. But I'm going to remind you about my co-host before we introduce him, because I've got some really exciting things to tell you about Robert. But Barbara and I have worked with Robert for a while. And so Barbara, tell everybody hi.
Hi. Hey, everybody. And you know what? Our question of today was kind of like, where do you see yourself? Like the three of us are studying the 7 habits of highly effective people, and start with the end in mind. Where do you see yourself going? Where do you see your life going? And Robert has got some great tips on how to determine and make sure that you're going the right way. So stay with us.
Okay. And we have with us Robert Arthur. He has been, he's a massage therapist. He's an entrepreneur. He's had several business and been in a 6-figure earning capacity at one company. Is top of the heap, man of the year, with the company that he's with now. And he is one of the best interviewers and trainers that I have ever run into. And so he has taught both of us so much. And so we wanted to have him be our first guest on this new platform. So Robert, I'm going to throw it to you and take us wherever you want to go.
Well, it's an honor, and I've learned so much from both of you. And Carol, you have taught me how to just look at life from a fresh perspective. And you always have the ability, and I see you all the time. Every time we connect with you, you're always thinking outside yourself. How can I serve? How can I help? How can I uplift? So thanks for always reminding me of that. And Barb, to me, you're the epitome to me of that fresh sprite, that fresh, that fun spirit that's always looking to, find the fun, but also find the heart in life, and as you pursue it every day. So thank you both.
Yeah. So
thank you.
We are so grateful to have you here.
Yes.
Because I'm going to tell on myself a slight bit. One day, Robert did a training. I came off the phone and I was like, wow. I called him in tears because right at that moment, it was such a powerful training and that's, I think, one of the things that we all want to do as coaches is to make people aware that something hits you, I always thinking of it as that it lands on you, and you know that it was for you, and you know that it was what you needed to hear right at that moment. And that it was one of those of just being more open and being aware and being softer and being, for me, that's what it was for me. And just that we can do it and that we're capable of doing it.
Yes.
And that's that was, I think, the biggest thing was that I can do this.
Yes, you can. And isn't it interesting that there's at any time in our life, at any chapter we're on in our novel or book that we're living, it's that, you're either open, and you may hear a certain coach, certain speaker, or read a certain book, hear a certain audio, whatever it is. And your takeaway, your lesson, how it impacts you, gets down through the layers, is totally different than mine or yours or anyone that listens to the same subject matter. So yeah, that's it's, to me, it's one of the most intriguing parts of being human. And as we, you guys labeled this Thoughtful Thursday, and also you do some shows on motivation. To me, the key to remember, because maybe many of you watching this, maybe you're probably a coach, mentor, or you're a leader, otherwise you wouldn't be listening to this. So it's, to me, I've had to learn the hard way that so much of the time, what motivates us and what I view as a core fundamental priority in my life, again, that's what I view. And as I work with somebody, a mentee or coach, part of the whole journey is the self-discovery and the awareness to
Right.
meet people where they're at, which is easier said than done. So.
That's so true. That's so true.
Yeah, exactly. And I just think that's what life is all about. Is, like one of my favorite sayings is that, we can't do life on our own. We have to do it with other people. And
Yeah.
so why not? Let's get along and let's see what the other person is and bring them along, and just realizing that not everybody is at the same place that you are. And all you have to do is be a little bit step ahead of them in order to teach them.
Mhm.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, you don't have to know it all. You just have to know a little more than the person you're teaching. And you're still helping them on. You're saying, okay, here's the next step. Here's the next step. And a lot of first year teachers do that. They've started school and they've had their education, but now they're in the classroom and they're the head honcho. And they will literally oftentimes write their lesson plans a day to a week ahead of time because they're learning what they're supposed to be teaching. They have a manual that says you need to teach this here and this here and this here. And so they're just trying to stay a step or two ahead of the kids. And that is not always easy in this day and time.
Yeah,
Right.
That's true. One of my closest mentors, he talks about one of the biggest, I guess, epiphanies, or again, we're talking about awareness earlier, is that once you become aware that the more you can step out of having to follow an agenda. So you talked about the teacher being one step ahead of the children. What if we view that scenario, whether it's a mentor to mentee, a teacher to a student, a coach to a student who pays them for their time? What if that when we step away from our agenda and we're more fully present, then there's as much learning as the mentor and coach and the teacher as there is the student. And so much of the time, once we kind of step away from that, think of all the calls we've been on, Barb and Carol, because we do these morning calls, we do evening calls, we're building this community. And think of how many of the top lessons come from a tool or a resource, or somebody in the group who shares an aha moment or an epiphany. And if we were so stuck in having to follow A, B, and C, and D without exception, some of the biggest lessons would never be learned or even be recognized as needed to be learned, if that makes sense. So.
Well, and I think one of the things we have to remember is that we can learn from everyone.
Yeah.
If we ever close our ears and eyes, whether it's a 5-year-old child, whether
Right.
it's the kid that takes out your groceries, the janitor at your kid's school, you don't know. That janitor could be a major trainer, and he does that because he loves the kids.
Yeah.
Everybody that's in a job isn't there for the money. Many of them are just there
Right.
because of their heart.
A personal confession, one of the things that literally sours my stomach is when you see a quote guru or mentor using the word idiot or somebody who's stupid. Those words are so, to me, debilitating and so disrespectful. And in my opinion, they're disrespecting their own self much more than they're disrespecting the person they're calling an idiot. Or those words are a reflection of I'm sure you both have heard, many of us, anybody watching this, I'm sure you've heard, we can only recognize in others what is manifested in ourselves. And so, I find that quite interesting when I hear that, people use those terms to describe a group of people or an individual. Yeah, that definitely sours my stomach.
Yes, most
Because
definitely.
To me, it's all about the learning. And you can learn from anything.
Mm-hmm.
The other day, I was out with my girlfriend walking our dogs. And as we were going along, dogs are doing what they're doing. They're stopping every 10 feet to smell and see what other dog was there, And I was like, and in fact, I think I did a post about it, things I've learned from my dog. And it was like, what? So often we just go down the road willy-nilly without ever stopping to see who else is there. We don't notice the things around us. We're so focused Dogs are not like that. They stop and see who else was there. So my lesson was stop and visit with whoever is around you in social media, which is what we do in our blitz calls. Stop and see who's visited you.
Yeah.
And it was like, it just really struck home to me that, all right. I mean, why don't we do it sometimes?
Yeah, that's
I'm
true.
just as guilty of anybody else is.
Yeah, one of my, I'm sure all of us have done many podcasts and YouTubes and different things.
Mhm.
One of my top rated or top viewed podcasts was on empathy. I think I labeled it empathy versus sympathy or something. And it's amazing how it was like 3 or 4 times of any other episode I've done. It goes to show you that people, people, our friends around us, people do recognize the fact that the tremendous need for it. And then so much of the time we're looking for, how to become more aware of it and how to even some of the skill sets and mindsets to actually hopefully step into that empathetic place much more than the sympathy, because the sympathy is to, I would describe it kind of stepping over and wallowing around in the mud, where empathy is saying, yes, I see, is to get down there and lift them, lend them a hand, and also just say, I'm here. If you would like to come out of the mud, I'm here with you. I'm here for you. I love you. I see you. I've been there, at some level, not where you are right now, but I'm here. Would you like to choose to, begin to crawl out of that place, and then wherever that place is, or choose to come out of there? So it's a big difference, because most people tend to automatically step into sympathy versus empathy.
Right. It's so weird that you're talking about that particular thing, because I know exactly what you're saying now. And because it was when my husband died. Before my husband died, when people had lost their spouse or a child or something, I was so sympathetic. I was so sad for them that they had a loss. When my husband died, after that, it was like so much more of an empathy, because I have been there, done that, got the t-shirt, that kind of stuff, that I can really and speak from a totally different place, because I know what they're going through. Like, because we can sympathize with people, but until we have walked even an inch in somebody else's shoe, we can't empathize. We want to, and yet we don't quite know how to get it until you've actually been there. And then people know when you've been there.
That's very true. When my dad, both Joy and I, both our moms went on to heaven at an early age in their 50s. And then that year, the immediate year after we lost Mom, Dad was part of his grieving process. He built this camp house, and it was probably like the size of most people's garages. It was very, very basic, but it was 2-story, and it was a great getaway for him on the lake. And, Joy and I would go up there every single weekend, help him build and work on it. And there was things that we would ask Joy to do, and bringing his tools way up on the upper roof and stuff. And Joy had a lower back fusion just a few years before that. And so Dad's always been the type of individual where whether you are a girl, boy, woman, man, doesn't really matter. Everybody pitched in. That's how it was in Dad's mind, and still is. And when Joy would have a back flare up or whatever, he would still kind of expect her to do A, B, and C. And then a number of years went by, and some of those things were very kind of iffy, on the edge, where one slight misstep or whatever could have been really potentially very harmful to my honey. So several years went by. Guess what happened? Dad had a major back issue, major back surgery, and he went through like a year-long rehab. After that, he actually approached Joy, even so several years later, and looked her in the eye and said, Joy, I have something to ask of you. And he asked forgiveness and said, I had no idea. And that's just kind of a more on the fun side, but on the reality side, yes, until we've been through someone's journey, we we don't have the right actually, but or even the I guess the even the awareness, the depth of awareness though, of what they're actually going through.
Right. Yeah.
Well,
So
and to
just-
me, sympathy is almost kind of more like pity. You know, you poor little thing. I'll pray for you, you poor little thing. Where empathy is more heart-centered
Mhm.
and more caring. And, you know, and many times we can't feel what they, like I could never feel what Barbara's gone through. You know, I can feel what you went through with Joy's back because Keith did it and I walked with him, and it is often just as hard on the spouse as it is on the person who had the surgery. And so that is, you know, but I don't know about having back surgery. So, I mean, I can only, I can see what Keith goes through, but I don't really know. Excuse me. But
Well, yeah, and look at the entrepreneur journey. We because we talk about that a lot. We coach people on there, and until you've been through the kind of the oftentimes roller coaster ride, or maybe you've had the heights of success. Maybe you're still there, or maybe you've had the heights of success and you've, you know, are looking to you lost it, maybe regaining it again. So until you've been on some of that roller coaster, even that, you tend to have the filters and judgment in your heart, in your mind, with people that you're coaching. So.
Right. So Robert, you would, before we talked about the 4 things that you were going to tell us.
Well, it was just the 4. I learned about these archetypes back from several mentors. One of them was a gentleman who's been in personal development for several decades now, and you know, Tony Robbins talks about it a lot, etc. But it was the archetype of the king, the warrior, the wizard or magician, and then you have the lover. And also part of it applies to, I had a couple of different journeys with Toastmasters, for example, in speaking. And what it boils down to, the more we can, when we can become more masterful and more skillful at being aware of the need, depending on circumstance, of stepping into lover, which is obviously that's the soft, genuine, heartfelt, you know, more humble, you know, spirit. And then the king is more of somebody who steps into more of their authority, but the authority that comes from experience, because remember, a king can either be despised or loved.
Right.
And that love and respect is earned because of his love for individuals that he rules or over. And so part of the archetype of the king is we do have, God gave us some authority, you know, over on the planet, over the animals and different things. That you can abuse that, or you can acknowledge it and realize it's part of your ability to truly serve at a higher level. And part of that stepping into even that assurance and self-belief, which is one of the biggest challenges we have as a human race, is that lack of self-worth. And then we have, you know, the archetype of the warrior, when we can, what I found in my mentoring process, I tend to step into lover, wizard a lot, some of the nobility and the king. And when I do step into warrior mode, it almost feels like it doesn't fit. But then again, there are certain individuals, because at the place they're at, they desperately need the warrior in me. So a lot of times I will ask, you know, Barb, can I step into my warrior mode? And then I step into a place where, you know, it's like, okay, here's what we're going to do. Here's the battle. Here's how we conflict it. Here's our armor. Here's our weapons. Let's go do it now.
Right.
And then the wizard and magician is what is the magic? What is the way that we can use our intellect and our wizardry, that the magic all around us? And some people view magic as something that's like it's evil and dark. And I think couldn't be further from the truth. The magic is all around us. There's heavenly beings and spiritual beings. We see a physical world right now, you know, all around us, but that's just such a finite aspect of what's truly all around us. And there's no idea we can even imagine the magic and the miracles of each and every breath, each and every blink of the eye, and every heartbeat. So part of it, the more we can realize we can become even a higher version, meaning a higher level of service, a higher level of exercising our God-given gifts and power and talents by serving others and uplifting others. And one of the ways to do that is to be aware that God put these different aspects of our life and our spirit within us already. He put a fertile, creative imagination. So these archetypes are nothing more than different expressions of the being that our Creator already is. Because when we describe, even I love reading about, I don't mean to be esoteric over here, but I will for a minute. I read a lot about, I love the story is like angels, for example. Right. And everybody sees that angel, oh, it's a cherub and they're soft and, bubbly and big rosy cheeks, and nothing could be further from the truth when they're described in all references that are based on the happenings. They are noble, they're warriors. Right, yes, they love people, they're wizards, they are mighty beings. And so
the host of heaven are warriors. They even have weapons within their bodies.
Yep.
And and you can say Jesus on here. We're not gonna.
Yeah.
we're not gonna. You can say Jesus and Bible and God. We're not sidestepping that.
Well, think about it. For this, the Son of God on this, when he became human and in human form anyway, he was a carpenter. He worked with his hands. Right. He walked miles every day to get places. He threw the tax collectors out of the temple by their cuffs of their neck. My goodness. He was a warrior, and he was a lover, and he was a noble king who people loved. And he was this magical spiritual being all in one. So what a role model right there that have the archetypes to look at.
And the Bible tells us to be more like him. That's what we're striving for daily if we're in that walk, is we're working to be more like Jesus every day. Yeah. So, and embrace all four sides of that.
Yeah.
Right. To bring out more of the things that we are. Like one of the things that I say lots of times is don't beat yourself up for the things that you're not. Celebrate the things that you are, the things that you're not, that you feel that you're not. Yeah, you can work on those. Absolutely. But don't beat yourself up about the fact that you're not something.
Well, yeah, exactly. And one of my other teachers is that he talks about if we can stay in more of a place of contrast versus it's so a lower realm way of living is to stay in comparison, right. Contesting, versus when we stay in contrast, then we stay in a place of uniqueness, celebrating our unique talents, our unique strength, our unique, light we have, what we bring to the world in a way that only we, only Robert, only Barb, only Carol, only whoever you're watching this, you are unique and you are a powerful child of God. And there's only one like you in all of creation. And there's only one like any of us that ever will be in creation. So the more we can acknowledge that and live life accordingly, oh my goodness, then we're living a life that honors who we are and why we're here.
Yeah. Exactly. In a nutshell.
Well, I guess we're just about out of time. So I want to give everybody a little bit of homework. Didn't know that was going to be a part of this, did you?
Okay, this is the first time hearing about it, so okay. But
you're going to have to do your homework, Robert, and
I'll do my homework.
Go back. We're talking about what is your calling? What are your gifts and calling? God has put gifts and calling into every one of us. So your thoughtfulness for today and for the week before we come back together, and put it down in the chat. We would love to see what your answers are. But what did you want to be when you were a little kid? I mean, what was it? What did you think would float your boat? And I mean, I wanted to be an airline stewardess. Well, when I got old enough to be one, I was 5'4", and you had to be 5'8" to be an airline stewardess. So I was kind of out of luck. Well, in the 70s, they lowered the height restrictions. But by that time, I had been divorced, and they would not hire divorcees at Delta because they were all Southern women. So I never got to do
Didn't know that.
So, but what, what was it? I mean, I did fly a lot as a child, which was rare back then, but what was it that you wanted to be? I mean, I was always putting on plays for my parents and grandparents in musicals. Of course, going to the Sound of Music as a young child, I seriously worried, stressed over, what if I don't know the words and the dance steps? I truly worried about the time when I would soon be dating that I wouldn't know the dance steps. How's that for telling off on myself?
Yeah. With me, I always wanted to be a teacher. And then luckily blessed that I took a student teaching class and realized that I would never, ever, ever be a school teacher. And yet now I absolutely love teaching people, but now we call it being a trainer.
Right. So your childhood dream was that. What was yours, Robert? What was your childhood dream that you wanted to grow up to be?
Yeah, I went through one phase where I wanted to be an Olympic world-class runner,
Okay.
and then a pilot. And when I entered, I won some state championships in running, and then high school, and then college, I realized that biomechanically my body was kind of breaking down with the miles. So that's what led me. And I said, well, I'm still going to pursue. I have this physical way to, I have to express myself, and I had to achieve excellence. And so I saw the Winter Olympics, and I saw these cross-country skiers gliding over the snow in these beautiful mountainous places, regions on the planet. And then I dropped out of college, dropped out of my aviation career, and I changed majors 4 times, and I hightailed it from Montana and the border of Canada. And so within 6 months, I was working at a cross-country ski facility. Within a year, I was competing. Within 2 years, I was on the U.S. ski archery team. So that I just replaced the dream with something that I could still pursue excellence in. And then another dream, very similar to you both, was, I saw my mom and Mary Kay and how much joy she had from that. That's what led me to the industry that we're in, because, I fell in love with this. Was there a business where the only way to have success was to uplift and empower other people? And yes, I fell in love with that a long time ago.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah, that was me too.
Yeah. So anyway, I want to thank you for coming on, Robert. You have just brought so much to the table with our first event, and it's exciting, and I'm so glad Barbara said yes when I said let's do. So
I pushed Carol into the first one, and now she was like, well, she just fell in love with doing shows. So here we are.
I love it, guys. And people are hungry for knowledge. The right people will show up, and the message you bring to the table is truly needed. So thank you both for who you are.
And
Well,
I
thank
think
you.
one of the things that I am really realizing I talk to more and more people, because I bring people onto under shows, and I'm talking with people about being on shows and stuff. People, yes, they want the knowledge, but they want to feel like they're part of the conversation.
Yes.
And that has just been absolutely for me.
Yeah.
People want to feel like they are part of the conversation.
One of those core human needs, Barb.
Yeah. They just want to be a part of it. And so let's give it to them. If you want to come on the show, come on the show.
That's
Let us know
what this is about. Put it in the chat.
all this is about.
So like, share, tell your friends about us, and come back and see us next week. Robert, thank you for coming on, and we're going to call that a wrap for today. So see y'all.
Bye.
Bye.
Love life.
Bye, y'all.